Hello, I am Dr. Phil Hulbig from the Program for the Advancement of Learning at Curry College. Today we're here to talk about self-regulation, self-regulated learning, and the great Albert Bandura. Self-regulation is the ability to control your responses within yourself. So they include things like behavior, personality, biology, temperament. They even include things that might escape your awareness, like things in the environment or social behaviors. Now, a subset of self regulation is this idea of self regulated learning, which is a very, very powerful concept in the field of education. Essentially, self regulated learning is selecting, predicting, planning, scheduling, goal setting, allocating resources, organize really anything that you can control behaviorally related to your learning has to do with self-regulated learning. And so this idea of being able to control your own learning is very powerful, and it's led to some very important discoveries in the area of pedagogy, particularly in identifying the modes and techniques that enhance teaching and really supercharge a person's learning. Now, these ideas of self-regulated learning grew out of the work done by Albert Bandura, who is famous for developing social cognitive theory. And social cognitive theory is significant because it really exemplified and identified the importance of social interaction in the development of behavior. Because up until this point, the predominant way of describing how behavior sort of evolved came from a behaviorist standpoint that really just looked at environmental positive and negative reinforcers. But what Bandura was able to do was show that behavior really was resulting from a lot of social imitation, particularly from parents and teachers. And one of the more surprising results was the shocking willingness of children to imitate aggressive behaviors of adults. Bandura was able to do this using what was called the Bobo Doll experiment, where he had this little Bobo doll and they would record how the child played with the Bobo doll. Then they would have a parent or an adult model come in, and they would either play with the Bobo doll in a calm and compassionate way, or they would play with the Bobo doll in a violent and aggressive way. And what they found was when the children went back to play with the Bobo doll afterwards, the children who had observed the adult playing with the doll kindly and in a compassionate way played with the doll in a kind and compassionate way, and those that observed playing with the doll in a more aggressive or violent way played with the doll in a more aggressive or violent way. Interestingly, they found that if the adult who was playing with the doll in a rough and violent manner was praised, that would actually increase the violence of the behaviors seen in the child, and if the adult in turn was punished or reprimanded for their violent play, it would reduce the amount of violent play seen in the child. This got people thinking about the role that belief and kind of prediction played in behavioral control. And this was another interesting sort of insight that Bandura kind of came to, that behavior is reciprocally constructed from an integrated experience with the social environment where the individual is both influenced by the environment but also an influencer to the behavior that they're experiencing in the environment. This model was sort of more fleshed out by Zimmerman, who visualized this interaction kind of this way, where you have the individual developing sort of strategies to interact with their environment. But first, it goes through this sort of behavioral level where they're looking at their own behavior and their ability to kind of achieve that behavior where they're getting feedback. And then there is also the application of the strategy into whatever it is you're trying to do, however you're trying to influence the environment, and the environment giving you feedback. So it's really this sort of feedback system of information coming from both within the self and from the environment. This feedback between the self and the environment produced a type of self-understanding about a person's belief in their capacity to accomplish a task that we call today, self-efficacy. Bandura's experiment into self-efficacy actually is an interesting one. He investigated snake phobics, and what he found in his investigation of snake phobics, again, was this idea that belief was playing a large role. For the snake phobics, he had developed a series of self-regulating behavioral routines. And what he found was that while these self-regulating behavioral routines that were created did in fact, support snake phobics in overcoming their phobia, there was a group of snake phobics who just did not believe that there would be any hope for them with their snake phobia, that they were always going to be snake phobic no matter what anyone did. So, along with discovering that there were certain aspects to the environment that one could modify to help a snake phobic overcome their phobia, he also discovered that there were internal cognitive components related to belief that impacted a person's ability to modify and mediate their own behavior. Specifically being that the beliefs that an individual hold about their capacity really mediates and changes their behavior and their level of fear and arousal. So this discovery of the impact that belief has on our ability to self-regulate really has inspired a lot of research and investigation. First off, it connected the ideas of self-regulation to the ideas of learned helplessness that were being developed around this same time, and then have later on kind of gone on to be developed into the ideas of stereotype threat. But it also inspired the work of Carol Dweck and others researching the power of mindset when it comes to self-regulation.